Hi everyone, and welcome to my next video tutorial on Amazon SES. Now, before we get to Amazon SES and go into the details, and before I officially welcome you into that video, there is a quick prerequisite that we need to follow. So what you want to do first of all is you want to type in Google AWS CLI download. So go ahead and search for that. Okay, and then you want to click on this first link here, which is installing or updating the latest version of the AWS CLI. Now, if you already have it installed, you don't need to worry. You can just skip this step. So this is a prerequisite for the video tutorial, but if you don't have it, go ahead and click on it here. Now, don't worry, I will put a link in the description below, along with other links that I'll reference in the video tutorial. Okay, once you're on this page, you can scroll down and look for your operating system. So in this case, I'm going to be making use of Windows. So I just want to zoom out here a bit. And I'm just going to click on Windows here. And what you can do is you can download and run the AWS CLI MSI installer for Windows. So you can click on this link right here. Okay, and it's just going to set up the AWS CLI. So what we want to do is just wait for that to download, and then we'll start with the installation and everything with that. So let's just wait for that. Right, so once the CLI has been downloaded, you can just go ahead and open it up. Okay. All right, and what's going to happen is it's going to compute all of the space requirements just to check if there's enough space on your system. And once that computes, we are going to follow up this setup wizard, and we're going to follow the steps. So let's just wait for the space requirements to compute accordingly. So once the computations have been completed, we can now start the setup wizard and install the AWS CLI. Now, the AWS CLI is something that we need to programmatically access and issue commands to AWS. So in this case, we're going to make use of Django to pass over commands to AWS, and we need the CLI for this. So we can now say next. Go ahead and accept the terms when you're ready, and go and say next. You can just keep on going saying next and install the CLI. Now, there's a chance if you click on this, your screen will dim, but not to worry. So let's go ahead and do just that. Okay, so I take it it's not going to happen right at the moment. So what we can do is just wait for this to set up. Okay, and I'll tell you what will be the next step. So let's just wait for this. Right, so you may have seen the screen dim now, so not to worry about that. All you needed to do was just select yes, and just selected the appropriate option, and now you'll see it will say computing space requirements, and it's going to validate the installation. So let's just wait for the installation to be validated, and then we'll move on to the next step. So let's just wait for that to be computed and set up. All right, there we go. So the CLI has been successfully installed, and we can just say finish. And if you want to verify this, you can head over to your CMD, for example. And here in your CMD, all you have to do is you need to say AWS -- version. Okay, that's all you need to type in. And there we go. So as long as you see the AWS CLI here, you are good to go. All right, so that is the prerequisite that we require for this tutorial. So make sure you've got that all set and ready to go, and then we'll go ahead and begin with the official tutorial. All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to my next video tutorial where I'll be teaching you how to integrate Amazon SES with Django. So just to be clear here, so Amazon SES is a cloud-based email service, and this allows us to send emails very much like a Gmail and all of the other SMTP providers that we get. So SES is another alternative, and it is really a great service if you are using it for in a production environment, which I'll talk about later on. Now, if you're wondering how to get here, you can just search here on AWS. You can just type in SES, and you'll see here something that says Amazon Simple Email Service, used for sending emails and receiving emails. Okay, so you can go ahead and click on that. I usually bookmark the services that I use, much easier for me, but the choice is yours. Okay. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to test it out, see how it works, just get the gist of it. And to do this, we need to create and verify a sender identity. Okay, so this can either be based on a domain email address or just a regular email address, okay, that we're going to test with Amazon SES. Okay, so in this case, we're just going to use regular email addresses. So since we are making use of the Amazon SES service in the sandbox mode, so the testing mode, we need to create two sender identities, you could say. That would be the from address and the to address. Okay. So what we can do first of all is just go ahead and make sure that you have two normal email addresses, email accounts. So I have one here, a dummy account that I'm using. So my first one is called onetimexx96@gmail.com. So just a random email. And in incognito, because I can't open both the emails up, I have a random one here called codemaster809@gmail.com. So I'm going to use this email here, for example, codemaster809@gmail.com as a, I'm going to use it probably as the to address. And I'm going to use this onetimexx96 as my from address. So make sure you have two Gmail accounts ready to go. Now, like I said, to do this, you need to, of course, keep one open in incognito mode, because you won't be able to have two emails open on the same browser, you could say. Okay, so make sure you've got that all set and ready. So once you've done that, let's move on to the next step. So we can now go ahead and create identity. So we're going to create a sender identity, okay? And what we're going to need to do is we're going to have to verify it. So of course, if we had a domain name, we would just, of course, verify our domain name, and all the emails associated with that domain name will be verified. Now, in our case, we just want to test this and see if it works correctly so that we can send our emails through Amazon SES. So we're going to choose email address. So we need to go ahead and enter in our email address. Okay, so the first one I'm going to add in is my from address. So the from address for me is going to be called onetimexx96. So I'm going to just go ahead and enter that in. Right. So let me put that in. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to say this is my from address. And we can scroll down and just say create identity. So we can go ahead and do that. There we go. So what's going to happen here is the identity status is pending verification. So we need to actually verify these accounts that we create. So I'm going to go here, and I can see here it says email address verification request in US East, Ohio. Okay, perfect. So we can go ahead and verify that. So do bear aware that the link will expire in 24 hours. So I'm just going to click on this. Okay, and verify it. Okay, so I've successfully verified this email address for making use of Amazon SES in the sandbox environment. Okay, perfect. So I can close this here, and I'm just going to delete this message here. Now what I can do is I can just go ahead and refresh this page, and let's see if that email address has been verified. There it is, it's been verified, perfect. Great, so this is looking good. So if we go to configuration verified identities, if we go back, we can now say we have one identity verified. Okay, so I'm going to use this, like I said, as my from address. Now I want to make use of this codemaster809 as my to address. Okay, so I need to go ahead and verify that. So what we can do, for example, if you're on the same page as me under verified identities, okay, you can go ahead and say create identity. So we're going to create our second identity. So you can say create identity. And I'm going to say email address again, and I'm going to put mine in here. So I'm just going to say codemaster809@gmail.com. Fine. Okay. And I'm just going to scroll down and create this identity. This is where my emails are going to be sent to. Now, do bear in mind, if we want to send this to any sort of email address, we need to request production access. But before we can do that, we need to understand how to do this in the sandbox mode before we go further on, because it's going to be very confusing. Right, so we need to verify this email as well. So I'm going to go to incognito, and this is where my other email address is open. And same thing, I'm going to verify it like so. So I'm going to click on that, click on the link and verify it. There we go. So I've now successfully verified this email address for use in the sandbox environment. Perfect. Okay, I can delete this. So all of my emails are going to come to this email address here. So codemaster809. All right. Perfect. Okay, so I just want to refresh the page here. So I can just refresh it. Okay. And we can see this one is now verified. So this email address here. So if we go back to configuration verified identities, okay, we can now see that both of these emails have been verified. So these are both our sender identities that have been verified, and we verified them separately as email addresses and not based on a domain name itself. Okay, so make sure you've got two identities that have been verified, as we're going to use them for our from address and our to address. All right, so make sure you've got this done and dusted. Right. So we're getting closer now to integrating this with Django. Now remember, if you want to integrate anything with Django from AWS to Django and from Django to AWS, you need to have access key. So a normal access key and a secret access key ID. All right, now to do this, we need to make use of the IAM service, which stands for Identity and Access Management. So you can technically leave this page here. Just be aware of the two identities that you have and make sure you have them both open as I do, very important. So just make sure that you've got that all in place. We will return back here, but we can go to IAM Salon. Okay, so Identity and Access Management. So let's head over there. Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay, so what you can do if you don't know how to get to Identity and Access Management or IAM, you can just search for IAM. Go ahead and choose this one here. So it's going to help us to manage access to AWS resources. Okay, so what I'm going to do, okay, to make it very easy and simple for you guys, is I'm just going to create a user for you, and I'm going to show you how you can do this. So what you can do is you can just click here on the left, which says users. Okay, and I already have a few users here, of course. What you can do to make it easier for you guys is you can go ahead and you can add a user or create a user. So go ahead and do that. Okay. And you can give your user a username. So I'm just going to say SES user. So I'm going to keep it very simple. Okay, I just want to zoom out a bit here just to make it a bit clearer for you guys. Okay, and you can go ahead and choose these two options. So the credential type for AWS is going to be the access key. So we want programmatic access. And we also want to be able to log into this AWS management console here. So you can go ahead and check both of them there. Then I would suggest that you assign a custom password. Okay, so I'm just going to put in a custom password. Perfect. And just uncheck this box here. We don't want to reset our password. So just uncheck that box. So make sure you've got the following here. So look very carefully. So we want programmatic access with that access key, access to the AWS Management Console via password. We want to make use of a custom password and go ahead and just uncheck the require password reset, because if you don't uncheck this, when you log in for the first time, you're going to be prompted with this message, which is rather annoying, to be honest. Okay. Now we can go next to permissions. So once you're happy with everything, just bear in mind your username as well. Make sure you don't forget that. So we can go and say next permissions. Okay, so the best way to actually go ahead and do this is to add a user to a group, okay, that has the appropriate policies. But I'm going to assume that you are not sure how to do this, so I'm just going to make it a bit simpler for you. And what we can do is we can attach existing policies directly here. So we can choose this option here. Okay, so this isn't the best practice, but it is a simple way just to get you guys started. So what you can do here is you can add a permission policy. So I do have videos explaining this on AWS on my channel, so you're more than welcome to check out my AWS Fundamentals playlist if you need some more information on this. Here I do talk about the best practices and how to go more in detail with that. So the basic policies that we need is the first one, administrator access. So you want to check that out. Okay, and then you want to search for something called IAM user change password, and you want to check this as well. So don't worry, as soon as you check the box here and select it, it's going to automatically save. It won't be removed, so don't worry about that. And these are the main ones that we need. We need one more. So if we're going to make use of Amazon SES, okay, we need to type in Amazon SES, and we want full access. Now, this isn't always necessary, but there have been times where I've noticed that we do run into a problem if we don't explicitly select this permission policy of Amazon SES. So go ahead and also select that one as well. So once you've selected everything there and you followed exactly as I've done it, you can go ahead and just say next, and you can go to tags. Okay, under the tags section here, it's going to zoom in now. We can just skip this and go to review. Okay, just make sure you're happy with everything here. So my username here is SES user. I have programmatic access and AWS management console access. The console password type is custom. Permissions boundary, of course, is not set. We didn't need to set that. And our password is not going to be reset. So scroll down and make sure you have the following permissions here. So administrator access, IAM user change password, and Amazon SES full access. If you don't have the same permission policies as me, you can just say previous, and you can go all the way back to what I did earlier on and just add those permission policies. So just double check that you have the following permissions here. And if you're happy to go and you've got your username and everything set, you can just say create user. Okay. There we go. So our everything was created, and we now have our user, we have our access key and secret access key ID. Now, something important, please never share, as I think, I've been mentioning this so many times, but I just have to say it just in case this is the first time for one of you making use of AWS. So make sure you don't share your access key ID or your secret access key, very important. Always make sure you keep them safe, and of course with environment variables, okay? So you can either download it here, or you can just copy that access key ID and secret access key ID, which I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to copy the access key ID here. And I'm just going to paste it in a notepad for now. So there's access key. Now I need secret access key. So I'm going to copy that as well. Okay, and just for the sake of it, I also want to get my user. Okay, so I want to add that. And there we go. So let's add some space actually. Okay, so I've got everything set and ready to go here. So make sure you've got everything set as is, okay? There we go. Now, once you're done with that, you can just say close. Okay, so I'd strongly recommend you save it to a notepad just for this purpose, because this is how we're actually going to access AWS with Django. So make sure you've got that in place. And of course, SES user here has been created, all set and ready to go here. We can now head it back to our dashboard. Okay, and everything is set and ready to go. Right, so everything's set and ready to go. One more thing that I want to mention is, of course, with your account alias here, okay, if this is your first time, okay, it's going to show up as your account ID. It will just show a long list of numbers. I would suggest changing this, so you can just say edit, and you can go ahead and change your alias as you wish. So this is what we're going to use to log into our IAM user account. So as you can see, I'm already logged in with an IAM user, but I wanted to do this just to follow continuity, so everyone is on the same page. So with preferred alias, you can change it. So I can change this to anything I want. I'm just going to keep it as is, okay, as I have it. So I'm not going to change this. So feel free to change your account alias, very important. That's also something I would suggest that you save to your notepad here, your notepad file here as well. So for continuity, I can do that. So account alias, I'm just going to add that in then. My web app 94. Okay, so go ahead and do that if you wish. Now, I'm assuming you guys are probably in your root account, okay? I'm going to guess. If you are using your IAM user account, I'm very happy, I'm very proud, because that's the right way to do it, but I'm assuming some of you, this is your first time doing it, so that's the way I'm following it this way. Okay, but what we can do next is we can just sign out. Okay, so we can just sign out of our account. And what you can do is go ahead and log in. So log back in. Okay, and what we can see here is we are able to sign in as an IAM user. So first we'll have the account ID or the account alias. So you can either put in your account ID, which I would strongly discourage, or your account alias. Now the account alias is what I showed you just earlier here. Then your IAM username, of course, mine was SES user, and then your password. So you can add the following in, and then you can sign in. So go ahead and just add the following details in for yourself. Great. So once you've done that, you can go ahead and sign in. Okay. Now, I just want to mention a bit of best practices quickly here. So as you can see, we are now signed in. Everything is set and ready to go here. SES user. If you see that ampersand symbol, that @ symbol, that means you're making use of an IAM user account. Now, something important that I want to mention before we move on. So if you head over to IAM, so I would recommend in the future, just for making it easier for you, is what you need to do in the future is make use of a user group. Okay, so you can add users to groups and add permission policies to that group. So every user you create inherits those permission policies. That is the best way to do it. The reason I didn't go into so much detail is I don't want to confuse you guys. So I just want to keep it light. And also make sure you add MFA, so multi-factor authentication for yourself, very important. So make sure you do those two things. Like I said, I do have videos explaining that if you want the best practices and so on, okay? But I don't want to make this video too long because the focus is not on IAM. Okay, so now we can click back on Amazon Simple Email Service. So we can go back to SES and here we are. We have our two identities, great. So make sure you're all set and ready to go. Right, so let's integrate Django with AWS. So what we can do first of all is head over to our settings.py. So for example, I just have an application here that's running. It just says hello world. It's very simple, very straightforward. There's not really much going on here, so it's very basic. So what I'm going to do in my settings.py file here is I need to add in my access key and my secret access key ID to my settings.py so we can programmatically communicate with AWS. So here I'm going to say AWS underscore access underscore key ID, and I'm going to set that to blank for the moment. Then I need to set a variable called AWS secret access key and leave it to blank. So let's paste that in. So let's paste them in between the between our quotes. There we go. There is our access key ID and our secret access key ID. Right. So the next thing we want to do is we want to install a package. So the package that we're going to make use of is Django-ses. I will add a link to this under the description. So basically Django-ses is a Django email backend for Amazon Simple Email Service. So usually if we're making use of Gmail as our SMTP server for emails, we're going to use Gmail. But in this case, we're going to use SES as our SMTP server. So we're going to make use of this package. So what we can do is head over to our terminal and make sure you're in your virtual environment. Copy that package, install it. Okay, so go ahead and install that. Okay, and a good way to verify this, like I always like to show you guys, if you type in pip list, you can go ahead and verify that it's in your virtual environment, and I can see Django-ses. Perfect. All right. So let's go ahead and turn on our server. We may as well. So let's turn that on. Here we go. Let's just run. Okay, good. All right, so here's the package done and dusted. Now, let's head over back to settings.py. And we want to set up our email backend accordingly and all of our email settings. So I'm just going to write a comment here. Let's actually just, let's say email configuration. Okay, all right, let's start. Now the first thing that we need to do is actually set the backend. So this is the reason for setting up that package. So we can just simply say email underscore backend. And in quotes, we can just say Django underscore ses dot ses backend. Now this is case sensitive, so you're going to have to do it exactly as I do it. So I have email backend and then in quotes Django underscore ses dot ses in capitals, B capital, and then backend. All right. Next thing that we need to do is we need to set two more variables. The first one is going to be seen as AWS underscore ses underscore region underscore name, and we need to set this to whatever region that we specified our sender identities. So in our case, these verified identities are in Ohio, and Ohio is in US East 2. Now by default, Amazon SES makes use of Northern Virginia, which is US East 1. That is the reason why we are explicitly stating the region name. Okay, so here we need to say US East 2. Now we need to go a little bit more detail because Amazon SES also uses a region endpoint of US East 1, which is North Virginia. So we need to state the region endpoint as well. So this is where all the emails will be sent from. So we can say AWS underscore SES underscore region underscore endpoint. And here we can put in the following. So it's going to be email.useast-2.amazon, okay, aws.com. So make sure you've got that explicitly entered. So email.us-east-2.amazon, aws.com. Okay, so we need these explicitly stated because, like I said, it will default to US East 1 and you'll get an error and this won't work as it should. Okay, so make sure you've got that all in place. Okay, so make sure you've got that all set. Right, so once you've added everything in as you should, we can minimize this. We're now going to go back to application and we need to now configure our access keys. So what you can do is open up your CMD and type in AWS configure. Okay, so we're going to configure our access keys. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and enter in your access keys here. So I have mine here. So I recently just updated them here. Okay, you just want to paste them in. So don't worry if it looks different from earlier. So I just went and created a new pair. There we go. And you can just press enter here and enter there. So enter in your AWS access key and secret access key. So these are the ones you added to your settings.py here. So go ahead and make sure that you add them in accordingly. All right. So once that's done, you can close this. And now we're actually going to do the actual testing here. Okay, so what we can do now is turn off our server and we want to go ahead and say Python manage.py shell. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to do this in the console as a test to make it easier for you guys. I don't want to go into explicit detail or anything like that. I think this will be easiest to explain. So basically, all the code that I'm running here, of course, is Django code that you can technically go and make use of in your views.py. That's something that you can go ahead and do yourselves. But here, I'm just making it easy for you guys and doing it in the shell instead. So let's go over what we need to do. First, we need to import the send mail function that we have in Django. So that would be from django.call.mail, okay, import send mail. We want to make use of the send mail function. Okay, once you've done that, you can go ahead and make use of the send mail function. So it's going to take in 4 parameters. So we can say send underscore mail. And the first parameter is going to be the actual subject. So the subject, I'm just going to say this is the subject. And that was a quote there. Second is going to be the message. So here in quotes, I'm going to put this is the message. Next, we need to put in the from recipient. So where the email is coming from. So I have this email here called onetimex96. And this is what I said earlier would be the from address. So I can add that in here. So we have onetimex96@gmail.com as the from address. And now we need to make use of square brackets and put in the to address. So remember, I had that email open in incognito here. So this is codemaster809, so just a random email. So here in quotes, I'm just going to put in codemaster809. Let me actually make this terminal bigger here. At gmail.com, and remember you need to add a parentheses at the end because this is a send mail function. So there are 4 parameters. Let's go through them again. So first you put in the subject, so this is the subject. Then you put in your message, so hi, how are you doing, anything like that. So this is the message. Third parameter is the from address, in this case onetimex96@gmail.com. And then the to address, this is where the email is being sent to, so in this case codemaster809@gmail.com. Remember your parentheses, this is your function, and you can just press enter. So technically, if you are creating a form, maybe an account sign up page, you would add this code within your view. Okay, so this is literally the code that you can use in your view. So just have a look nicely here. So I'm just running it in the Python shell just to demonstrate to you how it would work. So you can press enter. Okay. And if you see the number 1, that means it was sent successfully. So what we can do now is in Siri, we can head over to that to address. So here I see it from one time x 96. This is the subject. This is the message from one time x 96 at gmail.com via amazonses.com. Perfect. So we can see that that is working just as it should, and the email is being sent via Amazon SES to this email address, and that correlates here with what I mentioned. So from onetimex to codemaster809@gmail.com. All right, so this is the code that you would need. So just go ahead and check that out. You can, of course, pause the video and have a look. So this is how you can send a general message, and that is the logic that you really need. So that's pretty much it, guys. Okay. So I just want to mention a little bit more, just to go into more detail with you guys. So with Amazon SES here, okay, what we did was we checked out the sandbox mode, which we did, and to make use of the sandbox mode, we can only have a recipient, okay, so the from email address and the to email address, okay, needs to be explicitly specified here in Amazon SES. Of course, what you can do now is you can actually verify your domain name identity, okay, and then you can follow the steps there. So technically what you'll do is head over to Amazon SES at the main page, and you can say create identity, and you can create it based on your domain name. So for those of you that created a domain name perhaps with Route 53, you can create your identity, and you can choose the domain type here. So you can just choose domain, enter your domain name, and then just complete the following steps that AWS tells you to do. So that is the right direction if you want to make use of your domain name email addresses. So you can go ahead and click on that, and you can test it that way as well. But I do want to warn you that whatever way you do, whether it's the domain or the email address, you'll still be in the sandbox mode. So you'll be limited to about 200 emails, and you're going to have to make sure that the emails that you send to and from is a verified identity. Now, in the real world, this doesn't make sense, and it's not very helpful. So what you can do is you can go ahead to your account dashboard here on the left. So whether you decided to create a sender identity for your domain or for your email address, you can click on the account dashboard. And as you can see here, it says your Amazon SES account is in the sandbox in US East Ohio. And as we can see here, if we want to actually have production access, so let's say that we want to do this like for real, and we want to not have to go ahead and actually create manually the email addresses that we want to be sending to. Okay, sending from, it makes sense, okay, because you might have a no reply at mydomain.com, like a no reply, for example, for password resets, or anything transactional based, marketing emails, etc. It makes sense to verify your from email address, like I mentioned, not the to, because we can never like figure out who is the email always going to be going to. That needs to be done in our application, in our backend, okay, when the user enters in his email address. So the good thing here is you can request production access. Okay, now something that I want to mention about the production access is once it's been requested, you will then be able to send emails to any email address that is out there, if it's Hotmail, Gmail, anything, from the verified email that you set as your from address. And you can send it to anyone. You don't have to do this sandbox mode thing where you can only send emails between two verified Amazon SES accounts. You will only verify the from email address, which can be sent to any email like it should in a normal application. So there I would recommend to request production access. And as far as everything goes here with the sending email part here, it's going to work the same. The same logic is going to, be part of anything that you do in the future. Okay, I just gave you a manual example, but the same logic that I explained is pretty much going to take place. Okay, so of course you'll have your set from email address, but the to email address will be more like a variable that you define or an object based on that user that signed up with his account. Their email will be set here in the to part here. Okay. Now, to give you a little bit more help on this production access, I did a bit of research here. So there is another link here, which gives you a guide on moving out of the Amazon SES sandbox here. So you can see here like I mentioned earlier, you can only send mail to verified email addresses and domains. So this is what I was mentioning earlier on. You are restricted in the sandbox mode. That's why the to part we have to specify, and that's why we needed to specify specifically 2 email addresses are from and to. Now, moving out, okay, we will be able to send it to any email address. So you can read a little bit more about this if you wish. I'll put this in the description as well. And yeah, so make sure that you follow everything accordingly. And what you can do, of course, is you can go ahead and request production access. Now, I believe there are a lot of articles out there that do explain how you can work on setting everything up for production access. There is a set thing that you need to set in your email, so go ahead and research that. But I will put this in the chat for you to make it easier in the description. To make it easier for you guys to understand what you need to do and what's required of you. So to give you an example, you can just say request production access here. And what you can do here is you can set the mail type. So set it's transactional marketing. I always do transactional because I usually use this for my password resets. Then you're going to need to put in your website URL. And you need to give a full-in use case description here about what you're planning to do and everything else. But like I said, you can of course research this as to what message you can make use of and what you need to include in your message. Okay, but this is of course only if you actually have a full website URL and everything like so. So just bear that in mind here. Okay, so that is how you would proceed if you want to go further to a live account with actual emails. I believe you can get up to 200,000 emails or something, some crazy amount like that. So it's definitely something worth looking into if you have a serious application and you want Amazon SES as your email backend. And from personal experience, I'll definitely recommend using SES. It's really great. It's very cheap as well. So it's really something I'll definitely look into. There are a lot of other email providers out there, but I think Amazon SES is really underrated. It's not spoken of much often, and it's definitely a way to go. But yeah, I think that's it, guys. I'm rambling way too much, but this video is a bit long, but I hope it was of value to you and it helped you out. But yeah, that's it, guys. I'll be sure to attach the links below for the links that I mentioned earlier on. I'll add that to in the description below for you to check out. Yeah, so that's it, guys. Thanks so much.